podcast.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and the baby is napping in the other room. But because we're in the new house, I think I'm going to be okay. Because, new house, slightly bigger, all right? Baby's room, farther away now. Also, walls are not paper thin in this house as compared, some of them are, but not as bad. All right, look, old house, all right, straight shot from the office where I recorded to the baby's room, really only separated by two less than soundproof doors. All right, now in the new setup, I am probably 3 times farther away. And on top of that, right, the doors still separated by 2 doors, but the doors are heavier. All right, that's good. It's a good start. Also, a little bit longer of a hallway with some bigger walls in between. Also, he has this white noise machine that he sleeps with that drowns out all of the noise. So, feel bad for this kid. He's never going to be able to sleep in a quiet room. That's for sure. We are not doing him any favors there. But that being said, I do get to record other times other than when people aren't home. So that's great. This week, talking about some killer couples. 4 couples from history who teamed up and killed a bunch of people. Hence the name Killer Couples. Really buried the lead there. We are covering the stories of Paul Bernardo, Doug Clark, Ian Brady, and our first story of not Ian Ramos, Jose Ramos.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
Jose Ramos was born to a poor family in southern Brazil. His father, after deserting his post during the Ragamuffin War, resettled the family in Santa Catarina. What was the Ragamuffin War? I don't know. But now I'm curious. So let me go check this out real quick. Yo, for such a dumb name as the Ragamuffin War, this was pretty crazy. All right, it's kind of confusing, but basically the Ragamuffin War was like this rebel group who led this uprising in southern Brazil, right? And they basically, it was a continuation almost of the Cisplatin War, which I'm not even going to bother getting into that. But it helped, apparently there was some political affiliations, geographical affiliations, and support from Uruguay and some independent provinces in Argentina. But as part of it, this war basically ended slavery in Brazil, which is news to me and probably you that Brazil even had slaves. We only really talk about America having slaves, but Brazil did too. And during this war, slaves were organized into their own kind of battalions. And there was this Black Lancers troop, and they were annihilated in a surprise attack in 1844 known as the Porongos Massacre, which basically ended the Ragamuffin War and resulted in the deaths of over 100 rebels, 96 of whom were these slave soldiers who were trying to, whatever, and like over 1,000 horses. And it was just, I don't know, man, just a crazy little war called the Ragamuffin War. And it was basically like the Ragamuffins were just basically, that was the name given to the people who were against the imperial Brazilian government. That's all it was. It was just a silly name that they were given. And then they just made a whole war out of it. So anyway, back to the actual story. So Jose Ramos, his dad was fighting in the Ragamuffin War, and he deserted because he was like, I don't want to go against the government. So they resettled the family in the town of Santa Catarina. This is in the 1800s. So one night during an argument, unrelated to the Ragamuffin War, Ramos's father attacked the mother, leading Ramos himself to stab his father to death. And so following his father's death, Ramos moved to Porto Alegre and became a police inspector. In 1863, Ramos was caught trying to behead Domingos José de Costa, a prisoner who had been caught the year before. According to Ramos, de Costa was trying to escape the prison, but officials ended up firing Ramos because regardless of what was happening, you're not supposed to murder the inmates when you're a police officer. Pretty basic. That's police 101. Don't murder people. A lot of policemen still do it. I don't know how you're going to stop that. Well, following his firing, Ramos continued to work as a police informant while ingraining himself in Porto Alegre's wealthy social circles. He eventually met Katerina Pals, a German immigrant who had watched her family get murdered by Hungarian revolutionists before being raped by the soldiers. So she's been through some stuff. The two quickly met Carlos Klausner, another German immigrant who had opened a butcher shop and rented out an upstairs apartment to the new couple. Don't try to get ahead of me on this one, okay? Listen, we've covered German serial killers before. We know that they have a propensity to maybe go a little overboard. Well, at some point in 1863, Ramos and Pals decided to start murdering people and began targeting other German immigrants in the city. Once they chose a victim, Pals would seduce them back to the couple's house, where Ramos would then decapitate and strip them of their skin. Ramos then would take the flesh and make sausages that were later sold at Klausner's butcher shop. I told you, Dad, you didn't need to get too far ahead of me because I was going to catch right back up. By August of 1863, people began worrying about the increasing number of disappearances in the area. Klausner grew worried that his entire operation would be discovered and planned to flee to Uruguay. Ramos, fearing that Klausner would then rat him and Pals out, murdered Klausner and buried him in their backyard. Ramos then took over the butcher shop, claiming that Klausner had sold it to him, but the business eventually failed since neither Ramos or Pals had any idea how to actually run a business. The following year, police summoned Ramos down to the station after several witnesses claimed that two salesmen, Jose Ignacio de Souza Avila and I was trying to do the accent, but I guess it's Januario. His name's January, pretty sure. Januario Martins Ramos da Silva were last seen with him. Why do Hispanic people have so many names? Like, it's 5 names. I count the das and the days, so maybe 4, but it's a lot, all right? Like, anytime you ever meet a white person that has 4 names, and not even, and I mean, this could include like a hyphenated last name, but like someone with 2 middle names, like, what are you doing? A little pretentious. Let's calm it down. Don't be hogging all the names for yourself. All right. We got to name our kids something too. And if you're hogging all the middle names, you're going to think we're naming our kids after you, and we don't want that. So, like, stick to one. All right? Anyway, it's beside the point. So these two salesmen, they disappeared. Ramos was the person last seen when the police called him down. Despite Ramos providing an alibi, police ended up searching his house and found personal possessions of these two men, along with others who had been missing for months. They also found parts of Klausner's decomposing body in the basement, as well as the bodies of Avila and Da Silva, along with Avila's dog in a well. Pulse, who had already been arrested at this point for other crimes that she had committed, quickly confessed to murdering 6 people and turning them into sausage. Ramos was quickly sentenced to death, but later had it commuted to life in prison, where he died in 1893. Pulse was sentenced to 13 years for her role. Although the murders weren't heavily covered in local papers, the story eventually achieved international acclaim and was even mentioned by Charles Darwin in one of his notebooks. So there you go. Fast forwarding 100 years or so, eventually, to Ian Brady, who was first born on January 2nd, 1938 in Glasgow, Scotland. Because his mother was a waitress and his father had actually died 3 months before he was born, Ian was given up for adoption. As a child, he became enamored with the outdoors and spent as much time as he could outside. At school, however, he was kind of a problem child. He was caught breaking and entering twice and ultimately dropped out of school altogether. After being sentenced to probation for several charges, Ian was sent to live with his adopted mother, or maybe his biological mother, and her new husband in Manchester, England. He was quickly arrested for theft and sent to a juvenile detention center where he got reprimanded for home brewing alcohol. After his release, he worked several jobs before deciding to quote-unquote better himself. And he began committing himself to learning and ultimately found a decent, stable job at Millwards, which was this chemical distribution company. However, he was reading all these books, and then he came across a book called Mein Kampf, and he loved it. He became somewhat fascinated with the Nazis, thought they had it figured out. Like 100%, like, all right, this Adolf Hitler guy, he knows what he's talking about, which is not great. Ian then met Myra Hindley in July 1961 after she joined Millwards as a typist. The two quickly hit things off and started dating soon after. Their dates were typically the same thing: a night out to an X-rated movie and then back to Myra's grandmother's house for German wine. Okay, so... Which is like I can't even imagine, like, there's not, at least to my knowledge, there's not like a porn theater anywhere around here. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe you're not supposed to readily know where those are. But like, I can't imagine, like, the people that I took on dates, right? Like, even like online dating or something, right? It's like, oh yeah, let's meet up on Saturday. Well, what do you think about that? Maybe we go down to the X-rated movie house and then come back to your grandmother's for some German wine. Why is it German wine? I didn't even know Germans made wine. Like, after France and Italy, I don't know that any other European wine is going to be that good. I mean, wine isn't that great to begin with, but, you know, at least Italy and France, they're kind of known for it. Well, a few months into Ian and Myra's relationship, they both began reading Nazi literature together. And remember, this is the 1960s. It's over a decade since the Nazis have disappeared. All right, like, the story's been written. We all know they were the bad guys. All right, but apparently didn't matter. And Myra actually took things a step further by dyeing her hair blonde, wearing high boots and leather jackets, and basically doing her best to look like a Nazi without tipping people off. And it's not as hard as you might think, right? Like, you can dye your hair blonde, get some like goose, whatever they're called. I was going to say goose stepping boots, but you get it. But it's like, there's like a fine line between like, metalhead / dominatrix and Nazi. All right. And she was towing that line pretty hard. She even started shooting guns as a hobby. And then, like, because I guess they were bored, began planning bank robberies with Ian. Now, in July of 1963, Ian began talking to Myra about, quote, committing the perfect murder. Whatever that entails, probably committing a murder and then getting away with it. So on July 12th that year, they set their plan in motion. After getting off work, Myra cruised the streets in a hired van while Ian followed behind on his motorcycle. They eventually came across 16-year-old Paula Reed. Myra offered Pauline a ride. Maybe I said Paula. It's Pauline Reed. Myra offered Pauline a ride, and the girl hopped in the van because, again, it's the 1960s. People did that sort of stupid stuff back then. Myra then explained to Pauline that she needed help finding a lost glove in the Saddleworth Moor, which was this open prairie in the northwestern part of England. Pauline, figuring there was nothing strange about some random woman just driving up to her, be like, "Hey, love, can you come help me find the glove out at the moor?" That's not, I mean, come on, really? Like, I don't know. But also, the baby has woken up from his nap. And that's not good, because he has not napped long enough, but hang on. And we're back. All right, so getting back into the story, Ian Brady, Myra Henley, they want to commit the perfect murder. So she goes out, comes across 16-year-old Pauline Reed, tells her she needs to find a lost glove out in an open prairie. Pauline, being an idiot, decides to help. So they go out there. Ian arrives at the moor within a few minutes of them stopping and took Pauline into the prairie to look for the glove that didn't actually exist. I think you're all aware of this, right? 30 minutes later, Ian came back and took Myra back down to show her what he had done. Pauline had basically been sliced in the throat twice and had nearly been decapitated. Myra asked, "Did you rape her?" "Of course I did. Of course I did. Me Scottish. Of course I did." Well, whatever, he raped her. However, because one murder is never enough for a Nazi, the couple killed 3 more children over the next year and a half in the same manner they had killed Pauline. By 1965, it had become a regular part of their life as a final solution to their problems, if you kind of know what I mean. On October 6th, the two met 17-year-old Edward Evans and took him back to their house for some wine. Ian, while they were there, sent Myra to get her brother-in-law, David Smith, who her parents did not approve of because of his prior criminal record. Smith arrived to the sound of Evans getting blasted over the head with a hatchet. He and Myra rushed to the kitchen just in time to see Ian finish him off with an electrical cord. Now, because Evans was too heavy for Ian to carry out on his own, Smith agreed to come back the next day with a stroller so they could transport the corpse down to the moors. Smith, however, couldn't keep it a secret and ended up going and telling police what had happened. Police then quickly came by and took Smith down to the station for an official report. Superintendent Bob Talbot, disguised as a bread delivery man, then went to Ian and Myra's house and asked if Ian was home. When Myra denied any man actually lived there, Talbot revealed his true identity, walked in, and found Ian just sitting in the living room. Which is, I mean, come on. Like, at least hide. Like, if some random dude's going to come to the door and you're going to tell your girlfriend, "Hey, I don't live here. Tell them no man lives here." And don't just stay sitting in the chair. Go hide somewhere, idiot. Anyway, Ian and Myra denied doing anything, but police arrested Ian anyway, charged him with 3 murders. Myra was arrested a few days later. Their trial lasted 2 weeks, with Ian and Myra testifying for a total of 14 hours. On May 6th, the two were convicted of all 3 murders and sentenced to life in prison. Our next story here is of Doug Clark, who was born on March 10th, 1948, somewhere in Pennsylvania, which doesn't particularly matter because his father was a naval intelligence officer and constantly moved the family around the world. Clark claimed that he lived in as many as 37 different countries, which feels like a stretch, but I mean, I could be totally true given that he was born in 1948 and God only knows what the government was doing between World War II and the 90s. Following a brief tour in the Air Force, Clark drifted around the country finding work as a mechanic. He eventually settled in Los Angeles, where he met Carol M. Bundy in 1980. What is up with people with the last name of Bundy being terrible? I don't know. Anyway, the two quickly jumped into a relationship, moved in together, and discovered that they shared the same incredibly dark fantasies. It started innocently enough with Clark bringing prostitutes back for he and Bundy to have threesomes with. However, Clark quickly became fascinated with his 11-year-old neighbor and had Bundy actually lure her into the apartment to have a naked photo shoot. That, of course, turned into Clark expressing a desire to kill a woman during sex so that he could feel the body contract that took place during the death spasms, which is so creepily specific. Like, I don't know, man. Like, how do you get to that level of specificity as to, like, and look, I guess it was like, yeah, I want to kill somebody while we're doing it because that is just crazy to say that I've done. But no, he's like, no, I want to kill someone while I'm having sex with, I don't know why this is how he talks, but he does. I want to kill someone while we're having sex so I can feel the death spasms and how it makes my wiener feel. I bet it feels really good. Like, ugh, creep. Anyway, and guess what? Carol Bundy, she's all about it, right? So she happily purchased 2 pistols for Clark, who immediately went out and shot Gina Morano and Cynthia Chandler in the head before raping them in the parking garage of the Sunset Strip. Now, kind of a problem there because he killed them and then, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they weren't dead as he raped them, but they were in the process of dying. I don't know. Maybe he did it. I don't know. However, that actually crossed a line for Bundy, who then called the police to tell them about the murders. However, she failed to give them any specific information about Clark so they could actually go find and arrest him. 12 days later, Clark killed Karen Jones and Exie Wilson. This time, he decapitated Wilson and placed her head in the refrigerator. And when Bundy found it, she put makeup on the head and gave it back to Clark to use as, you know, his kind of own little wiener depository, if you know what I mean. Which is gross. Soon after Clark had murdered another woman, Bundy reconnected with Jack Murray, her ex-boyfriend, who was now a country singer. Murray, who was actually a good person, completely horrified when Bundy told him all of the awful things that she was into and actually threatened to tell the police about what she and Doug Clark were doing. In response, Bundy lured him into her van with the promise of sex because guys will still do it, even after learning how insane someone is. Crazy in the head, crazy in bed, am I right? Unsurprisingly, she shot and decapitated him. 2 days later, Bundy finally couldn't take the guilt anymore and confessed what she had done to her co-workers. Unlike Clark, they were not into it, and they called police, who came and arrested Bundy. Within hours, police had a full confession of not only everything Bundy had done, but what Doug Clark had done as well. Clark was arrested a short time later and charged with 7 murders. He proceeded to act as his own defense counsel after his initial attorney showed up to the trial drunk and fell asleep during cross-examination, which, honestly, that's the exact kind of attorney this guy deserved. Despite providing solid alibis for 5 of the 7 murders and the fact that Bundy couldn't keep her own story straight while she gave her testimony, which was the primary evidence used in the trial, Clark was ultimately found guilty and received the death penalty. Bundy, as part of her plea deal, was given 52 years to life in prison, where she died on December 9th, 2003. Clark later died of cardiovascular disease on October 11th, 2023. Our final story here is of Paul Bernardo, who was born on August 27th, 1964 in Scarborough, Ontario. While Bernardo was known as a great, cute little kid, his father was arrested for molesting a girl when Bernardo was 11. Now, coupled with his continued abuse of Bernardo's sister, things at home were just fantastic. Bernardo's mother, embarrassed by her husband's actions, confined herself to the basement and rarely participated in family activities. I don't know why she couldn't just, divorce him and maybe take Paul with her. I don't know, probably would have made things better. However, to make things worse, Bernardo's mother admitted to Paul that he was conceived illegitimately after she had cheated on her husband, who Bernardo thought was his actual father. Even more, Bernardo then developed dark sexual fantasies that involved humiliating women in public and beating them. Worst of all, Bernardo started working for Amway after graduating college in 1982 and began following several motivational speakers and get-rich-quick experts. And I framed it that way on purpose because I think, to me, there's dudes who commit sexual assault. They're bad, right? Then there are dudes who kill people. They're worse. But then above that, it's these dudes who are all about the hustle and the grind, bro. And just making gains, getting rich, just strapping cash or whatever. I don't know. And just like they're following all these self-help gurus. And they've got all their mantras. They get up at 4 a.m. and they dunk their face in a bowl of ice water for some reason. I don't know. I don't even know what that's about. Then they go to the gym at like 6 a.m. and then go to the gym again at 10 a.m. And then in between, they're like doing their, stock portfolio trading or doing a side hustle where they're like a quasi landlord and evicting people. I don't know, whatever, man. But like those dudes are 100% the worst. And then especially if you catch them early on when they're doing something like Amway or Cutco, where they've like bought into this idea that if they just hustle and they work hard, they're going to be like crazy wealthy when really they're just in a pyramid scheme. And they're just trying to work to get to the level where they can get their own pyramid scheme started. And so that's what Paul Bernardo was. In 1987, which, Grant, look, kid had a tough life. I get it, but don't go down this path, right? Like your mom is a doormat, right? Like cheats on her husband, has Paul illegitimately. Paul grows up thinking that his terrible dad is his dad. It's not even his dad. You're not my dad. And then he just watches his mom. And again, like his mom probably felt bad. She's like, well, I cheated on him. He probably can just do whatever he wants, and she's probably like, God, if I tell him I cheated on him, she's probably going to beat me like she beats her daughter. I don't want any part of that. So I don't know. She's in a lose-lose situation. But either way, no good decisions being made. In 1987, Bernardo met Carla Homolka, and the two were immediately attracted to each other. Unlike other girls, Homolka was super into Bernardo's sadism, which encouraged him to continue assaulting and raping other women in the Scarborough area. Over the next 3 years, Bernardo raped at least 10 women and tried to rape 6 others. By July 1990, police had set up a task force to catch the Scarborough rapist and submitted over 100 DNA samples for testing. After police received tips that Bernardo resembled a sketch of the Scarborough rapist, they decided to bring him in and interview him. After 35 minutes and getting Bernardo to admit that he actually did look like the sketch, they just let him go. Now, listen here, Paul, you got to admit, right? Like, this is the sketch we have of the Scarborough rapist. Several women have given us a physical description of their rapist, and this is what he looks like. Got to admit, Paul, looks like you to a T. Now, look, I get it. Scarborough, suburb of Toronto, big metro area that we're working with here. Not saying it's 100% you, but it 100% looks like you. Paul, what do you got to say? Yeah, looks like me. What do you want to do? I don't know, actually. Like, we can't keep him. We can't keep him here. Like, we don't have any evidence that it's actually Paul. We've done the DNA test. We don't have a match. It's a crazy coincidence that this guy looks like him. There's no way this case would be that easy. Like, no case has ever been that easy where we actually find these sketches have never worked. Like, no sketches are. This can't be the guy. We're just gonna let him go. All right, see you later. Sorry to take up some of your time. Although Bernardo at this point worked really hard to make it seem like everything was totally cool, his life was falling apart. At this point he was engaged to Homolka, but the relationship is rocky. He's lost his job as an accountant, which has forced him to smuggle cigarettes across the U.S. border to make money. Bernardo also developed an interest in Homolka's younger sister, Tammy. And while normal, well-adjusted women would be super not okay with that, Homolka actually helped Bernardo get closer to her little sister by breaking the windows in her room so he could sneak in and just kind of make his bald man puke on the floor by her bed while she slept, which is crazy. Like, I can't imagine. Like, my wife has 2 sisters, all right? I can't imagine if I was like, babe, I'm kind of into your sister. Whichever one, I don't care. It's just like, I'm into your sister. I want to try to get close. She would be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You're not coming over to any family gatherings ever with an attitude like that. So you should change your mind about my sisters right now. I'm the sister. Like, me. You married this sister. It's the one you get. And I am happy with that. I want to be very clear. I got the right sister. All right. Don't care about the other 2. I mean, like, they're great people. Like, happy to have them in my life, but I'm good. I got the right one. All right. Let me just clear the air. I was doing a bit. All right. Just want to make that obvious. Anyway, Bernardo, though, he's into his fiance's little sister. And she actually is cool with that. And she helps him break into her room and jerk off by her bedside, which is weird. On another occasion, Homolka laced Tammy's spaghetti with Valium, causing her to lose consciousness. And then after stuffing a halothane-soaked cloth into her mouth to make sure she was totally unconscious, Homolka undressed her sister and presented her virginity to Bernardo as a Christmas present. The 2 then filmed themselves raping Tammy in the basement while their parents were asleep upstairs. What are you doing? Like, there's a reason this is like Canada's most famous true crime case, because this is so very not Canadian. Like, oh man. During the rape, Tammy began vomiting and then choking on said vomit. Homolka and Bernardo tried to revive her, but neither of them had any idea of how to actually do that. And then the 2 eventually gave up, hid all of the evidence, and then called 911. However, police were unable to save her, and Tammy died a few hours later. Authorities were immediately suspicious of this and questioned Bernardo and Homolka about Tammy's death. Despite a chemical burn from Tammy's face from the halothane and the fact that Bernardo and Homolka deep cleaned the basement in the middle of the night without any other reason to do so, police accepted their version of the story and ruled Tammy's death as accidental. Which is, these police, man, it's just like, all right, come on. Like, your sister died in front of you. And you guys decide that, right after that, this is the best time to deep clean the basement. Yeah, I guess, yeah, call it a trauma response or something, officer. I don't know. We were just so distraught that, look, we clean when we get anxious and scared. Cleaning helps us feel in control. And we thought that maybe a clean basement would help us feel better. And God, wouldn't you know what it did? God, I can't remember. What was her name? Tammy. That's right. Tommy would be a boy's name. Tammy, that's probably right. Yeah. And police probably just sit there like, yeah, you're right. Come on. A murder case would not be that easy to solve. It's obviously not you guys. It was clearly an accident. And you guys clearly came down, saw her, freaked out, and decided to clean everything up because it was clearly an accident. So why would we consider anything else? We get it, of course. Oh, God. Anyway, the next year, after killing another girl the same way, Bernardo found 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey while he was out stealing license plate as part of his other side gig to make money. So as not to seem suspicious at all, though, Bernardo approached Leslie and told her he was just trying to break into her neighbor's house. It's just like, he's like, oh God, I look really suspicious stealing license plates, but I really want to rape this girl. How can I seem totally cool and not creepy? Hey, how's it going? Don't worry about me. I'm not stealing license plates or anything. I'm actually just trying to break into this house, which, don't worry about that either. Can you help me, though, with that? And this girl, thinking that it was totally normal and not problematic at all, she asked if Bernardo had any cigarettes. And was just like, yeah, go ahead, break in the house. One thing real quick. Do you have any cigarette? Yeah, you got any darts? Would love a dart right now. And she's immediately invited back to his van, which never ends well. Bernardo probably is like, oh my God, this was way easier than I thought it would be. So Bernardo drives Leslie back to his house, where he and Homolka proceeded to listen to Bob Marley and David Bowie while they videotaped themselves raping this girl. The next day, Homolka gave Leslie a lethal dose of a tranquilizer, though she later claimed that Bernardo strangled her to death instead, and it doesn't matter, the girl's dead. Bernardo then went out and bought 12 bags of cement, cut up Leslie's body with a circular saw, and encased the pieces in cement. The two then made several trips to nearby Lake Gibson to dump these cement blocks. One block, however, weighed 200 pounds and was too heavy for them to toss into the lake, so they just left it on the shore. Oh, God. A month after kidnapping, raping, and murdering another girl, Bernardo and Homolka were questioned again by police regarding the Scarborough rapist investigation, Tammy's death, and additional reports that Bernardo was actively stalking several other women. When news that a task force was created to investigate two of Bernardo's murders, he and Homolka applied to have their last names changed to Teal, which Bernardo had taken from the name of the serial killer in the 1988 movie Criminal Law. Look, why does he have to try? The police aren't trying. The police are the police have had this dude handed to them on a silver platter at least twice. And just they're like, we just don't really have any clear evidence other than the fact that you look exactly like this sketch. I mean, that's just crazy. You were also in the basement with Tammy when she died and then just decided to deep clean it. Not suspicious at all. And now he is going to change his name to that of a serial killer on a movie that had just come out. 2 years ago had just come out. So it's pretty fresh. Now, look, I don't know how many people saw the movie Criminal Law. I've never heard of it. But still, change your name to something completely different. Something not associated with the thing that you are. But he did it anyway. And guess what? Kept going. Later that year, Bernardo severely beat Homolka because that was kind of his kink. Her coworkers became extremely concerned and went to remove her from her house and take her to St. Catherine's General Hospital. There, Homolka told police that she was a battered spouse, and Bernardo was quickly arrested but released on his own recognizance. Finally, over 2 years after Bernardo had submitted a DNA sample in the Scarborough rapist investigation, police randomly was like, oh God, he's a match. This dude, he's the sketch guy. He's a match. Holy cow. What? Oh, man. Ooh, buddy. Hope he hasn't done a whole lot over the last 2 years. This is going to be awkward. And so first they placed him under 24-hour surveillance. And then he was finally arrested over a week later on February 17th. Police spent 71 days searching Bernardo's house to find the videotapes of all of the rapes that he had committed, but only found one tape of Homolka performing oral sex on an unidentified victim, which is, maybe dead. I don't know. Homolka, who by now had voluntarily turned herself in, was offered a plea bargain of 12 years in exchange for all of the information she had on Bernardo and their victims. The Ontario government tried to issue a publication ban on the trial, but because the ban was only subject to Ontario, and Scarborough, a suburb of Ontario, was super close to the U.S. border, American journalists jumped on the case and published everything they could find about it. At one point, the Ontario government issued an order to arrest people returning to Canada with more than one copy of Buffalo's newspapers containing stories on the case, which is, I mean, you don't know if you can do that. Bernardo was eventually convicted of 2 first-degree murders and was sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, he confessed to at least 10 other rapes that hadn't been originally attributed to him. And in 2006, he actually suggested that he would make a good candidate for parole, and the Canadian government completely ignored him because that's an insane thing to think.
All done.
All right, there you go. Killer couples in the books. Let's recap and see what we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number 1, listen, I'm not going to make this all about the ladies. Fellas, if your girl wants to cut people up and turn them into sausages with her buddy who owns a butcher shop, maybe don't get involved in that. Like, I don't know, it just seems like a bad idea. Never going to end well when you're turning people into sausages, okay? Number 2, ladies. I don't know, man. Like, if your dude talks about wanting to see what it's like to kill people, and especially kill them while he's having sex with them, maybe he's not the guy for you. And I don't care if you're into some kinky stuff. I've said it before, there are some kinks that you should keep to yourself and don't share them with people because it doesn't end well. It never ends well. And then number 3, if you're listening to this right now, and that story about Ian Brady and him being a Nazi, and you were like, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. You're wrong. Like, Nazis aren't good. Like, there's nothing good about their style wasn't even that great. Their logo, iconic logo, but for all the wrong reasons. All right. Not even that great of a logo objectively. So again, find a different club to be a part of, but definitely not a Nazi, and definitely not anything associated with any kind of white supremacy, because it's objectively documented that they were the bad guys.
What did we learn?
Next week on Our Weird World, we are doing some more super secret spy stuff. I'm going to have 4 stories for you next week. Aldrich Ames, She Pei Poo. That's a good story, by the way. I am excited to tell you that one. Also, the stories of John Walker and Christopher Boyce. Just some spies who... It's not like James Bond level for sure, but just crazy what some people tried to do and tried to get away with. We'll cover those stories next week. That's it for now. Thanks so much for continuing to listen. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird.
This is a podcast.